It's good to go.
You want me to just hold this?
I think it's going to be fine.
Okay, great.
So, to start off, what is your name?
Hi.
And how long have you lived here?
Okay. Hi, my name is Emily Broderick, and I teach biology and marine science at Kauai Community College. I have lived on Kauai since July 2018, surprisingly, so only 4 years. Not long. Even though it feels like, especially with the pandemic in there, it definitely feels like there was some kind of time warp or something in there for sure. So I moved here for the job to teach at this college. I'm a marine biologist by trade, and my area of research and study is coral reef and coral reef ecology. So when I saw this position open up, I jumped at it because I love teaching. I love teaching at the community college level, and this seemed like such a great fit for me. And I guess, my colleagues agreed. So I moved here for the position, and ever since, just loving it. I mean, it's a dream being here as a coral reef biologist and as an educator because, there's so much community engagement, and most of my students are really aware of intrinsic ecological ideas, biology, natural world. So it's been really fun getting to know them and working with them here at the college. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's a good question.
Yeah, there we go.
That's a great question. So, I think when it comes to addressing climate change, it's a little bit complicated for a lot of people, including myself, because there's really short-term, immediate impacts and maybe stuff that makes us feel a little bit more urgent, right? And then those immediate things we may or may not be able to do something about, right? And then there's also this bigger issue, which is, someone over in, Africa's emissions or over in New York City's emissions can affect the climate here, right? So we actually have less control over climate change, right? And then there's this kind of bigger, larger, global and time aspect, which makes us feel even, I think, a little more powerless, and it's also harder to grasp because we're talking about things that don't maybe directly see or impact. So, it's a complicated issue, and I choose to really, we talk about it, we learn about it, we discuss it here in my courses on campus, but we're really looking at, as far as the work that my students can get engaged with or the research we do, or when we're out and about for labs out on the island or even in the classroom, we really are looking at things that can be place-based and what can we do now here, what's important to me now, and can I do something about it, right? Because we can't do something about everything, and we sure can affect emission in New York City, right, which will affect us. So we're aware of those things, but again, it's a bit of a cliche to say, but really a small local act can change the big overall. So what you do on a small scale, it adds up, right? If we all do little things, it'll add up to addressing, and I think it helps us feel good, not just, maybe emotionally, spiritually, or with the environment, to do things about things we can. And so in my lab, in my classroom, and my research students or even just opportunities that I support, it's about addressing things we can do here on island. And absolutely, climate change is real. It's here. It's affecting every single one of us. And it's going to continue to do so on every aspect throughout biological systems, ecosystems, right? So one thing that we're doing, right here, you can see behind me this big blue thing. Me and my Marine Options Program research student have put together, with the great support of different grants and colleagues here at the college and throughout the UH system, we have custom built this coral restoration nursery. And we collect seawater. We have cast little pyramids out of cement, and we will collect a let me send you footage of this, okay? Because I absolutely have better running footage. But we are going to collect coral. We're waiting for the permit from Division of Aquatic Resources, where we fragment the coral into smaller pieces and we adhere it to the pyramid, and then it will grow over the top of that pyramid, and we'll rear it to reproductive size at a very quick rate, and then put it back out on the reef so that it can add its, next generation out to the reef to help address two things: degradation of reef, the impacts of climate change and CO2 increase in our waters, which causes corals to not be able to secrete their skeleton. So we want to be able to keep replacing what's being lost, and this is a very small way in which we can try to address that. And so that's one thing there. And then I also collaborate with two nonprofits that work together, Precious Plastics here on island and Ho'omalokekai, which means to protect the ocean. And together we collect, I let them put the stuff here. They collect plastics from around local businesses as well as on island, and for myself and some colleagues that give us plastics, and they collect all different numbers of plastics, and then they wash them, scrub them, remove the residue, and then Abe through Precious Plastics and Tim through Ho'omalokekai, who direct those programs, melt it down. They put like with like, and then they cast it and repurpose it. And currently they are making planters, and they just cast a side table. So, we're open to ideas for molds and casting, but we have the machine on island, and really that way we can do all types of plastics local. We don't have to go in the landfill. We don't have to ship it out, and we can actually do numbers that the county does not do. Again, the limiting factor is small, kind, scrubbing, soaking plastics, and anyone can do it. So, and then we also do a lot of debris removal. We remove old fishing line off of corals using scuba or diving. We also remove a lot of plastic from the beaches. And then I have another research student in the Marine Options program, and she's looking at microplastics in our rivers around the island. So these are little ways that we're trying to address things like carbon, hydrocarbons, which are plastics. And instead of like burning them, right, or letting them pollute our environment, we're looking at little small ways that we can deal with that and hope to capture some of that carbon in corals and do restoration. So it's really kind of small acts, but they're ways that we're addressing, climate change in a real action-based way here from my lab and my classroom here at the college. Yeah.
That's great that you kind of just went on and answered all my questions.
Oh,
but
I'm good at that. Ask my students.
And then, so that's perfect. So, is there anything like in particular that you worry about for your students' future? I know you've only moved here about 4 years ago, but have you seen any significant change with the island?
Well, I think it's kind of twofold, because it's hard for me perspective-wise to really tease out the pandemic. I definitely see low morale. I see sort of a low hope, which is hard because, it's a difficult, uncertain time. And I think particularly for the younger generation, they do feel more powerless, and they do feel like they can't control climate change, and it's worrisome. And I'm worried about it too. And if you're not worried, I think you just don't care. So I think the biggest thing I'm worried about is that, students feel they can gain the knowledge of basic biology and use that to address real problems, and they can feel hopeful that what they do, even in a small space, can be at least part of a solution. A lot of people think they need an ideal or perfect or all this, and that can create a lot of problems. And this is, to not get mixed up in all that there is hope, that they are part of that hope, and I hope that I can help, give them the tools of knowledge and how to come up with the solutions that they need, because and all my students are not necessarily younger, right? I see more of the anxiety in the younger generation, but I do have, I have students that are my age or older than me as well, and they bring in their knowledge and what they can address, and sort of as long as you give the same source of knowledge, people will use it in different ways. And so the cool thing about a community college and why I love teaching at a community college level is you have a whole mix of different ages, different backgrounds, and different knowledge coming in. And I just have to sort of give the tools, basically, and then I hope to encourage them to feel hopeful, to use that, to come up with solutions. Maybe they're not even new solutions. I think there's a big obsession with needing newness, and I don't think we need newness. I actually think there's really nothing new under the sun at this point. So it's how can we really apply what is maybe already known to situations to solve and address problems. Even if it doesn't completely or ideally solve the problem, it can address it at least partially, and a partial solution is still partially solved. That's all, and so I guess I just try to keep it real and support and be available and hope that my students don't feel hopeless and feel like there is a future and it is worth working for. So I do see that as a major issue.
That's your kuleana, and that's your responsibility as the professor.
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And then that being said, and you kind of are nailing all the points without me even asking the questions.
I did. You had very thoughtful questions, and I reviewed them ahead of time. So I did sort of think about stuff. Yeah, and I love that the county is doing this, and I love that they're supporting the youth council. These are the types of initiatives that I hope KCC and myself support. I definitely know our sustainability committee wants to be more involved in this at KCC, and we're sort of coming out of this uncertain time with the pandemic. Pandemic's not over, and guess what? Evolution's never over. Things will continually change over time, and we have to find ways to work with nature to select the right adaptations so we come out ahead, right? So that's kind of my perspective on it. But, there's good stuff happening. It's just pretty low-key. Yep. But I think, again, everybody is important, and even little small things they do can make a big difference because, right, that's how we achieve greatness is through little acts. So that's, whatever you define greatness as. For me, it's like being able to say at the end of the day, like I have, been true to myself and done something that's respectful to actually the environment because I love the natural world. So, yeah.
That was perfect. I think we can end it there.
Really?
Thank you for inspiring.
Oh, thank you,
that's
Kai.
Perfect for the film.
Okay, yay. But I do I look okay?
You look great. Time too.
I have my I wore my coral
shirt.
This is my Akoa shirt. It is from Kealo Pico, which is I think these are printed on Molokai.
Really?
Yep. And so I wore that today. And my coral nursery's name is Akoa Koa Kauai. Yeah, which Akoa Koa means it's coral. And then obviously Kauai. But it also means, interestingly, Akoa Koa also means to gather together. Yeah, which makes sense. Which is also why I love languages, and I love that the Hawaiian language really makes sense because a lot of it comes out of the natural world. And if you're a natural scientist and you observe, it's like, I love it. So, yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah. I mean, it's not just Hawaiian language, but a lot of actually cultures and people do that.
There's a lot of amazing things with Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian history that we can learn and really see that we could even use it in today with sustainability.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that is a big part of what we want to champion. And I'm going to quote my colleague Pua Rasi. She said, really, Hawaiian culture is sustainability culture. And so we work together a lot on our initiatives. And I think that is absolutely true. But I do believe that we are all, I'm a biologist, so I believe, we're all biological organisms, and it is wrong to ignore the humility of your place in the natural world. I think it causes trouble, and I think that's what kind of got us into climate problems in the first place, is we thought as humans that we could somehow not work with nature, but use it for the small few to make profit and not take responsibility for their impact. Yeah. So Hopefully that can change. And I think a big one, just to say on the record, is hopefully we can change the corporate culture enough that we can support corporations to make more sustainable choices. Because I think that's one avenue of big change that's going to impact economically as well as environmentally more than anything. These small things, but that's what I love about these local businesses. I think we're also Kauai Juice what was it, Juice Co? Kauai Juice Co. We pick up their plastic stuff. Kauai Brew Pub or Lihue Brew Pub. What is it called? Whatever. The one in Lihue Brew Pub. We pick up them, and then also the dispensary.
Amazing.
They have those little plastic things. I don't know. Maybe you guys shouldn't know this, but if you've got your license, they put it in these little plastic things, and we're like, but you guys, why are you using plastic? But anyway, so, I think if corporations and businesses can get on board with solutions, I think, it'll make it easier for us to not always feel like we have to choose. Just like, stop using plastic and stop producing plastic. So we don't have to clean up after you.
Exactly. I know.
Yeah. And we could end on that note. I have to go teach lab. I'm actually working on an Earth Week initiative with endemic species from Kauai. We're looking, they are doing climate change impacts on local species.
Amazing.
That's what the lab we're doing today is.
Lab.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And then they do an art piece around what species they pick. And I call it an impact statement. They research how is global warming impacting the species. They have to write in 1 or 2 sentences, and then we put it with their art piece, and then we will display it for Earth Week in the One Stop Center. But we'll also photograph it and make it digital, so I could send it over to you if you wanted that or to use it. Yeah, I have awesome ones. I was thinking of hybridizing because I have such few students in this lab this year, and kind of putting other years together because we didn't get to do it the past couple years. There's like some amazing projects that students. Yeah.
I believe the county is also doing something